Morning, everybody, and welcome to the April 9th, 2019 meeting of Henderson County Fiscal Court. We'll begin as we always do, waiting on our county attorney, Steve Gold. To get, no.
Doing your work.
We'll begin as we always do with an invocation, and Philip Wagner, Reverend Wagner from Haven Pentecostal Church, is with us this morning to help us with our invocation. Would you all please rise?
Thank you for this opportunity this morning. Sure appreciate all what you all stand for and what you do for us. And like professions, we are servants to the people, and I sure appreciate all that you all do. Lord Jesus, today we're so thankful for this opportunity to be together today. Such wonderful people, God, that care, look out for the better of our community. I'm asking you, oh Lord, that you would undergird us with your strength. God, go before us. Bless God that the things that we do will touch the lives and double and triple the things that we are intending to do. Move upon us and help us, God. Your blessings, God, we can do more than we can do ourselves. We ask you, oh God, that you just bless our government, God, which is by the people and for the people. Lord, we're asking you today, God, that you'll just help us all. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend. And Mr. Gold, you know I'm just kidding. We love you. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Magistrate Southern.
Aye.
Magistrate Moran.
Here.
Magistrate Putman.
Here.
Magistrate McCollum.
Here.
And Magistrate Berry is absent today.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have before you the minutes of the March 26, 2019 Fiscal Court meeting. After a period of review, I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other clarifications, corrections, or additions? Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Magistrate Southern.
Aye.
Magistrate Moran.
Aye.
Magistrate Putman.
Aye.
Magistrate McCollum.
Aye.
Okay, we're beginning today with a proclamation in support of Fair Housing Month, and Jeff Gregory from the Human Rights Commission of Henderson is with us. Anything you'd like to say, Jeff, before we read the proclamation?
I'd just like to thank the county.
You need to come up to the mic. I'm sorry.
I can yell pretty good. I'd just like to thank the county for support of fair housings and all things for fair employment and housing practices. I gave you a little handout of basically what we do at the Human Relations Commission, and just want to, for the ones that I haven't met, remind that we work for business, landlords, and the people being discriminated against as a consultant, and we're kind of a catch-all thing for if anybody has any kind of problems, well, they send them to me for a number of reasons. And I just want to tell the county how much we appreciate your support.
Thank you.
Well, we appreciate you too, but do you know how many complaints you get a year? Or is there some kind of report that you generate for that information?
Yes, there's an annual report that I have submitted to the judge.
Okay.
I don't have it with me.
Okay.
And we could forward that to you if you want
Okay.
to. Thank you. So with that, we'll read the proclamation.
Okay. Whereas the strength of our nation and all its states flow from the promise of individual equality and freedom of choice, and whereas the anniversary of the enactment of Title VIII of the Civil Rights Act of 1968, the federal fair housing law during the month of April is an occasion for all Americans, individually and collectively, to rededicate themselves to the principle of freedom of choice and to participate in efforts to eliminate all housing discrimination. And whereas the Title VIII Act of Civil Rights Act of 1968 guarantees each citizen that critical element of freedom of choice and the selection of a home, and whereas fair housing is the policy of the Henderson County Fiscal Court, and the implementation of that policy requires positive commitment, involvement, and support of our citizens, And whereas barriers that diminish the rights and limit the options of any citizen will ultimately diminish the rights and limit the options of all. And now, therefore, I, Brad Schneider, Henderson County Judge Executive, join with the Henderson County Fiscal Court to declare April 2019 as Fair Housing Month.
Mr. Greger, if you want to come collect this, displayed in a prominent place, and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Jeff, just real quick before you go, we do really appreciate everything that your Human Rights Commission does. You know, it's a shame in this day and time in the 21st century that we still have issues that deal with the things that you have to deal with on a daily basis. So we do appreciate everybody, and the commission also. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Nick Stallings, our friend from KYTC, who's going to come up and give a presentation about rural and secondary road recommendations for next fiscal year. And you all have in your packet, I think, copies of what he's going to be discussing, including some maps. So with that, Nick, take it away.
Thanks, Judge and members of Fiscal Court. Today I got with me Jason Ward. He's my branch manager. He oversees Henderson section and the Owensboro section. So he's got the north half of District 2. He oversees my work, and Matt West is me over in Owensboro. He oversees his work. I've got Ethan Johnson with me. He's an engineer that works with me. He's been with me for about a year and a half now. He's converted from construction to maintenance, so he's helping me in that aspect and to get these things that you're about to see done. So let me begin. This is fiscal year 2019-2020. And just for the new members on the court, this is a little bit of an overview of what Henderson looks like with the rural secondary program. We have about 300 centerline miles of state road maintained by Henderson. Now 50 of that is 4-lane, the US 41, the I-69, Audubon Parkway, that kind of thing.
Nick, just to clarify, it's maintained by the state here in Henderson.
Henderson, yeah. Yes. Maintained by the state here in Henderson. And then of that, 136 miles are rural secondary roads. Money can only be spent with this money I'm fixing to show you with our M&T or our construction money. Also with that, we have 122 state-maintained bridges in Henderson County, and of that, 46 of them are rural secondary bridges. So it kind of gives you a breakdown of what we look at with rural secondary. Rural secondary is a big portion of Henderson County state budget we have available. So this year, the way it worked with our money that we had roughly about $800,000 of KYTC funds that were allocated to Henderson County, and I'll go over what we are recommending to use or to do with that money. Also, flex funds this year remain about the same, about $131,000. And again, I'll explain that further as we go. Okay, so first thoughts are our first recommendation is Kentucky 812. We're looking to finish up this paving corridor. We stopped last paving season at Toyanth-Austin Road. We're looking to complete that from Toyanth-Austin back to Kentucky 1078. This will complete the whole corridor of 812 from the city line out to 1078 within the last 3 years. Now, what we have out there, we have a couple curves at the supers. We need to kind of correct, make it a little safer on the curves. So we're looking to do some level and wedge to get those supers corrected. And we also have a bunch of shoulders that have broken off due to wide loads, tractors, that kind of thing. Typical traffic goes down that road, and we're going to reline the ditches, make them a little bit better drainage out there. You got some fatigue cracking in the wheel pass that this surface will help abate. Our next recommendation is Kentucky 266. This will start at US 60 there in Corden and travel north to Midway Road. This is where we ended a paving job maybe about 4 years ago. We paved from Midway Road up to Kentucky 136. So this will help get the north section of 266 resurfaced. Here's a couple photos of its current conditions. We've got a lot of outside cracking for shoulders. We need to do some ditching work out there, and we got potholes a lot of places out there, which, this pavement is beyond its life cycle. It's weathered, it's, ready to be resurfaced to tighten up that pavement again. Our next recommendation, Kentucky 283. We're looking to start at the Webster County line, which is the 0 mile marker, and continue up to Kentucky 416 there at that four-way stop by the Ella Roberts Elementary School. This is, again, some current conditions it has. We've got center line raveling, which, just where the joint, water's getting in that joint causing problems. We've got a lot of cracking along the wheel path that we're looking to abate with the surface. Surface should help that. The new surface should help this road, with the friction and with keeping it tighter, so we don't have, the potholes that you can see along the center lines. And now we are looking at the flex funds. Those right there is the Kentucky KYTC money. This flex funds for new members on the fiscal court. Flex funds are allocated by the rural secondary program. They can be either utilized for county roads, for paved roads that want to be repaved, or they can be voted on for us to keep the flex funds and do with that what I'm fixing to recommend to you all. It's a vote that the county fiscal court takes, ready to keep the flex funds for your own use, or to give them to us for our continued use, which I will show you our recommendation. The recommendation we're looking to do with our money is Canoe Creek Bridge on 416. It's just right beyond the four-way stop that I'm proposing to stop the 283 paving at. This is the current condition of the bridge now. It's getting a lot of scour. It's kind of in the outside of a curve, so it gets a lot of beating on the east abutment. It's starting to scour out underneath of the POW cap. So that is starting to show up on our records to be replaced with the bridge inspection crew. This bridge, obviously, it doesn't have that much demand, being a rural secondary road in the ADT. So I think the best way to get this bridge replaced is using rural secondary money and using our maintenance crews to install and service aluminum box culvert. These are I've done about 7 between my 3 counties, and they typically come in on a truck, all flat sheets, while my maintenance crews are ripping up the old bridge, preparing the base, putting the rock down. We have a crew building this box beside the opening. So typically, the 2 days it takes to rip the old box out, they're putting a new box together. Then we turn around and set it in place with a trico, and then from that point on, we're building the wing walls and backfilling. So 4 days we'll have the old bridge out and this one back in. They typically have they're given a 50-year service life from Contec. They're aluminum, so you don't have it's lightweight. You have a lot of corrosion resistance. Another thing about this is it's got a full invert, which you can see down at the bottom of the culvert. That it kind of helps with scour. It slows the water down. It's got those ribs that collect silt to kind of slow the water down, and it keeps it from scouring out. It's got toe walls on both sides. That also helps with the scour. Now this is another point I like to give to everybody that's been here, and plus with the new ones. This is what has been resurfaced since I've been here in 2008. So for the last 11 years. Everything in red has been resurfaced with rural secondary money. The only thing we're lacking from working is Kentucky 266 from Corden south to 41A. We've got a couple sections of 1299, and then we've got a section of 283 from 416 north to 41, and then Niagara out to the river. That section has not been resurfaced. Every other mile in Henderson has been resurfaced, widened, or patched with rural secondary money. And these have been the bridge replacements we've done in the last 10 years since I've been here. They've all been either box culverts or concrete culverts, conspans. We've had 7 replacements. And then we've also had 2 deck restorations. One was a latex overlay on Kentucky 285, and then we had, which we did 2 years ago, we replaced the entire deck on 812 out there by Elam Ditch. We pulled the old deck off and set a new deck on, new guardrail, and safened that area up and widened it a little bit to make that corridor a little safer. So, quick little update on these are the projects that are coming through, not real secondary, that are coming through the pipeline for the Henderson state work. We have US 41, the old bypass, but now it's actually US 41 from the old 425 interchange north all the way to the Cloverleaf. That whole entire thing, both lanes, northbound and southbound, is getting resurfaced, along with all the asphalt ramps. So I know y'all gonna get calls about potholes. I mean, we're out there twice a week, but help is on its way. We're getting that resurfaced. We also have 41A from Cairo, there by Cairo Lowes Road, heading north to Kentucky 425. There's the concrete section. That section is also getting resurfaced. That money's done with FDO5 money. We got a high friction surface course going on northbound and southbound there at the transition from the Cloverleaf to the strip. You know, we have a lot of accidents there during the rain, raining conditions. So let's get a high friction surface course to kind of aid in helping people who are driving fast, obviously that can't maneuver that curve and slide off. Interstate I-69 and US 41, which used to be the old Kentucky 425 interchange, that concrete interchange, it's getting rehabbed also. So all that broken concrete is getting replaced with new concrete, and that's going to get rehabbed this year also. And the infamous Spotsville Bridge, it is there. It's inclusive, but we've got it. I think it's. All thing I've checked, it's happening, this year, August or September letting. So without another snag, we should be starting on that this year also. So that concludes my presentation, unless y'all got any other questions about my recommendations, thoughts. Okay. Yeah, as Jason said, we're looking to do a preventive maintenance project of Kentucky 2084. That is the old 41 from the police post there at the stoplight up to Palmer's. That used to be called 41, but then 41 took over I-69, so then they moved that over to Kentucky 2084. So the whole corridor is called Kentucky 2084 now. Where the state's trying to do some preventative maintenance work. Basically, if I want to explain it to you all, it's like repaint the house every 3 years. You can either repaint your house every 3 years or wait 10 years to replace your wood. You know what I mean? You keep up with maintenance. Well, that's what they're trying to do with this preventive maintenance, is doing surface treatments that are a little cost a little cheaper, but kind of preserve the pavement longer and get a longer life cycle out of the current conditions the pavement's in. So we're looking at doing a cape seal. A cape seal is starts out with crack sealing, which you've seen that's already been done last pavement cycle. This year they're going to come in with a chip and seal bottom, and then a week later they're going to come in with the ultra thin overlay or a micro surface. It all depends on what the contractor bids on. It's a dual bid. So a micro surface is the asphalt cement product. It's a polymer product that goes on top. An ultra thin is a resurface, is actual asphalt surface that goes on thinner than a surface overlay. So it'll have a dual purpose of close up all the cracks. Typically, is where the water infiltrates the road and where we get all of our potholes at, and it'll make a new surface for the traveling public to drive on, increase skid numbers, and give a better driving surface for the traveling public.
One thing I'd like to hear is Mr. Huback's input on the recommendation for the use of flex funds for the bridge over Canoe Creek on 416. Are you in agreement?
Yes, sir. I've met with Nick and reviewed the request of the expenditures on their rural and secondary funding. I also agree with the utilization of the flex funds for replacing that bridge. We have our own set of issues that we have to deal with on our county roads, but in this case, I think that the bridge replacement is needed, and utilizing the flex funds for that for this year would be a wise choice on that. So,
any other questions of?
Yeah, Nick, if I could, how long you since 2008 you talked about how many miles you put down of the asphalt. How long does that last?
We're
100 years?
No.
50 years?
Typical resurfacing project will last 12 to 15 years. Now, with that comes what base you started with, what condition it was before we paved. If it was a good road before we paved, obviously you got a road's got a lot of potholes on, and you don't have a lot of money to upgrade the base before you put the surface on. That also kind of hinders the life cycle of that asphalt. Traffic load is another factor. You know, a lot of our rural secondary roads, like some of your county roads, get 150 to 200 cars a day. That is zero traffic for that road. The problem it has is the weather, the hot sun, the cold weather, the freezing thaw gets in cracks, the thermal cracks. That typically is what breaks down the pavement quicker than say US 41, where it's simply a traffic problem. That is is actually beating that asphalt apart. The cycles of that traffic, it gets 3 million easels, all right, versus a smaller road like Kentucky 416 may only get 100 easels a month. So it's just that's an engineering term for traffic perspective. So we barely get any type of traffic on some of our rural secondary roads. So what I'm paving now, what I paved first year that was here is like 24, or I paved a 2248, I paved 2253, I paved some of those roads, and they're still holding up well, and they were paved in 2009, 2010. So we're 9-10 years on that pavement, and they're still holding up well. Again, it's the weather that causes more of the rural secondary problems than, say, I-69 or US 41 strip or that kind of thing.
I appreciate the way you've put the information together. This is a lot better than it used to be. And 2008 is now 11 years old, so we still haven't finished everything yet.
Yep.
And my point is, I want to point out we're not getting in enough money to allow you all to do your job.
Oh, I understand.
And the Spotsville Bridge has been on the 10-year plan since 1972,
Yeah.
and we might get something done this year, we might not. The legislature had a proposal this year to generate some funds. Gas mileage has gone down. They were going to start putting some taxes on the battery-operated cars and stuff. And I don't know what happened to it, because everybody said that they would help us and they would do it, but it's desperately needed because that also generates some funds for the county and working on our roads. And we don't have enough money with 400 miles of road, and what we're putting down in Blacktop, we can't keep up either.
Absolutely, and that's kind of the central office help, is maybe this preventive maintenance will kind of find roads that are halfway through its life cycle to put down $30,000 a mile versus $80,000 a mile and kind of, get it on a life cycle, perpetual life payment, essentially what they're trying to get. And you've got to start somewhere. So some payments are way too far gone for that. Some payments are way too new for that. So so right now they're working to try to determine where the payments we need to get on this program over. And they've got the Minnesota DOT that they're working with and the Auburn, Alabama DOT to get two perspectives on this preventive maintenance.
Well, your water is your number one thing. You got, and you could see everywhere where you didn't have any ditches.
Yep.
You had the alligatoring, and it's going to collapse with the water underneath the road. Now, Mr. Hubiak has done a tremendous job fixing those kind of problems. We used to not fix them. We used to put a half inch of blacktop on the road, and of course, in 6 months it was going to, but right before election time, that was the way we did things. And I'm glad we've changed that somewhat. But, the Germans figured out how to do it in 1938. They put down the Autobahn, and it's what they put down. Of course, they've got 38 inches. They got 2 feet of crushed packed, and they took care of it. And it's still just as good as it was in 1938. So,
I'm amazed that Master McCullum knows the road bed dimensions of the Autobahn in Germany. But that's what I love about him. And to remind the court,
those crazy Germans.
Fiscal Court last fall passed a resolution supporting new revenue plans for the General Assembly, and obviously in rural and secondary is one of the places where we've felt the pinch of reduced funding throughout the state or stagnant funding. So hopefully in the next legislative session, both the House and the Senate will take up Sal Santoro's bill that was filed and ignored that would create several different new funding revenues, including increased gas tax, fees for electric cars, and other things that you mentioned. Nobody likes to increase taxes, but these are facilities that people use every day. And if I think there's one thing Kentuckians can agree on is if they're willing to pay for things they use every day, it makes a lot more sense to agree to pay a little bit more if the need is there. So I just want to throw that in there while we very much appreciate and I think concur on this plan of action that Nick has laid out, including the use of flex funds on the bridge at 416. Any other questions about that?
Well, not about the bridge, but I have on Highway 60 from Henderson to Carden. It's fairly new blacktop. Mm-hmm. They put the rumble strip down the center.
Yes.
And I've noticed this winter that seems to be a catch for water to
infiltrate the joints.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So this new maintenance thing you're looking at, will that stop the infiltration of the water? Because it's definitely the rumble strips are nice because I'm one of them guys that see every deer in the country but not the road.
And it will. They're working. That's essentially what we're in the planning stages for and starting to do the plan for. But ideally, those would be fixed with crack sealing. And I worked with Jason, and we've got a maintenance liaison from Frankfurt that comes down and talks with us. And we're able to get funding from him for crack sealing roads. That could be a crack sealing project that literally will not, interrupt traffic or the surface itself, but it'll help, waterproof the road. As you see up and down 41, US 41 from, the stoplight south to 416, that's been crack sealed. I know it looks ugly, but it's wonders for the pavement. I mean, it keeps all water out of the pavement, and that's essentially the worst thing for a road is water. So especially during wintertime. So if we can keep that water out, then obviously the pavement lasts longer. So that would be something that we would definitely look at doing that center line crack seal.
Before we take any more questions or ask any more questions about something unrelated to this, just for the record, can I get a motion to accept KYTC's recommendations for the rural secondary program in our county next fiscal year?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions on this for Nick? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? So we got that done. And one more question, Nick, while you're up here. It's always, you always get extra questions, right, when it comes to roads. You all did a pretty dramatic job of shaving the hill just north of the Cloverleaf, the hillside there on the north side. Is there any plan to plant up any kind of flowers or anything to hold that hillside together now that we've hit spring, or is it just going to be kind of left like it is, or what do you think?
Well, that was kind of a collective effort between the state and the city. We maintain our portion of dangerous trees that would fall into the road, or that kind of help that slight triangle out, going around the corner there by Long John Silver's. The city came in and had a permit through us to do their work. So don't want to get that confused that we were up there, way off our right-of-way cutting. That was done by the city, but it was a perfect time to do it, cheapest way to do it. The tri-coat was already in place. Now, as far as what we're ground cover, we'll look at to see what comes back up that was there. Typically, we've done this along the Audubon, we've done it along the Penarrow, and within a year we'll get cover cropping. We'll get cover again. Now, we will definitely be adamant on making sure it doesn't wash out. But typically, we found when we do have a large amount of mulch that we have now, it dissipates the water, it slows the energy down, and we have no erosion. But as far as looks, we obviously care about that too. That's kind of the gateway to Henderson. But we will see what budget we have.
Yeah, my main concern was just slides. It seemed like it was maybe susceptible to slides.
Yeah, and it always is, but with the top of the soil how it is, with that being asphalt and having concrete up there and being commercialized, and then our side of our hill having that mulch on there, typically it'll slow the water down enough to where it'll have no energy to wash out or slide down.
Gotcha.
So that's something we'll definitely.
Okay.
Also, when we did the grinding on that hillside, we left the roots in place. We didn't disturb the ground any. You see the mulch when we ground the trees down, and yes, it's maybe a little bit of an eyesore right now, but typically, like Nick said, within a year, usually the ground cover that was there before that couldn't grow with the tree canopy seems to reestablish itself. So not disturbing the ground or and leaving the roots in place for those trees seems to help hold the slides. It helps hold the hillside from getting any slides. But if we do have problems, we will definitely address it immediately, because that is a major corridor right there, and is a top priority for us.
Gotcha.
I've got two questions. Have you looked at the bypass and 69, especially right where you get off on 25? They've patched it, but it's terrible. It's.
I think you mentioned that earlier. That's in the works, right?
Yes.
Okay.
All of the old 41 bypass is now 41 from the old Kentucky 425 interchange. There's the Morganfield exit. From there, all the way up to the Cloverleaf.
Okay.
Both northbound, southbound driving lanes and passing lanes are getting resurfaced, along with every ramp at Audubon, at 351, at the 41. All those are getting resurfaced.
I think right past the ramp, getting off on 2nd Street, there's some.
In the concrete section.
Yeah. The other thing is, if you're talking about the Cloverleaf, if you'll notice right there, I think right in front of the pawn shop, that it's been hit. When you get off the off ramp there, it's been hit. There's 2 lamps down in the ditch there where it's been hit, and I don't think the state does anything about trying to collect the money. Indiana does. I suggested to our state senator that they'll send the police reports to the county attorney and let the county attorney collect those monies from the insurance company. About 60 to 70% of the people have insurance. The money's quick to collect. The other people that don't have insurance, that's the county attorney's job. He wouldn't get paid for that, but they do that. I've talked to somebody, and what they said is that the state transportation doesn't do anything. They get the reports because the money goes to the general fund. I'm sorry, but we got to start taking care of every nickel dime we got. I don't care if it goes to general fund or somewhere, but somebody needs to collect that money, and these people that are hitting these things need to be taken to task.
Well, that's not true. So we have an attorney that works for us. He lives here in Henderson. And when we do get the accident reports from some of these accidents, then our attorney does contact the insurance company to attempt to get reimbursement. Now, sometimes there's not always a police report. Sometimes you don't know who did it, but we do make an effort to get reimbursement from those accidents. Yes, and the fund, and we do get reimbursed. It does go to the general fund. It does not go back to the highway department.
We're talking about street lights.
Everything, anything, any kind of damage.
Anything gets damaged from a motorist. Yeah. Like, for example, I spend district-wide almost $1 million a year just fixing guardrail hits when people hit guardrail.
It's $3,000 or $4,000 a pop, at least.
And so that's on the low side.
Yeah.
All right. And so we attempt to get reimbursed. Like I said, our attorney, Joe Kelly, who lives here in Henderson, he's the one that tries to get the reimbursement from the insurance companies. But I will also admit that it is not his primary duty either. So if there was another mechanism to where that was more efficient and worked better, then I'm sure that the highway department would be open to discussions on that.
Okay. And Brad, my brother, was a civil engineer.
Okay. Now, just real quick, out of my 3 counties, I do a lot of estimates yearly for crashes. There's sheriffs out of all the 3 counties. They'll send me reports, and there's a couple city police here that send me reports, and I'll do estimates either for our culvert damage, our guardrail hits, our sign hits, or light posts at the the breakaway post. I do a lot of estimates for that get turned in through Joe Kelly. So I know I am doing everything that comes across my desk. I'm here to help money go as far as it can. So that's not my priority to forget about it. I do it. So every time a lot of times somebody hits a guardrail at 2 o'clock in the morning. Guess what? He's not there. He's not there quick enough, and you'll always find his bumpers. It's part of it, But everything I get across my desk, I can assure you, I make sure I do with it what I need to make it work.
Thank you very much, guys. Any other questions? Appreciate you being here.
I will say real quick to answer Magistrate McCollum's question earlier about trying to extend our money for these rural secondary roads. We're going to do that preventive maintenance this year on 2084, which is basically the road from Palmer's out to the state police post. All right. If you like that type of preventive maintenance and you're interested in us doing it on rural secondary roads in the future, to where we can maintain the roads we've paved and then take care of the worst needs with resurfacing, and it'll help it won't help immediately, but over a period of time. You have a vision. Give it 5 years, and you will start seeing a difference in the quality of our roads that we have on the rural secondary here in Henderson County, for example. So, if you don't like that product, then we'll keep doing what we're doing. But that might help in a period of time. And the ones that we do the preventive maintenance on, those roads will still be resurfaced. It's just that they'll be resurfaced further in the pavement cycle because they're lasting longer by doing the preventive maintenance. So,
if it helps keep the water from inside the pavement, I think it'll be good. I think we're so far behind in our maintenance and stuff, though, it's going to be hard to notice it. So we're going to have to really pay attention to it.
Yeah. So we're trying to do new ideas to try to stretch our dollar, but we also don't want to impose on items that people don't want. So, again, that will be done this summer. If you like it, let us know before next year, and maybe we can do a couple of those next year on some roads to help us extend the payment life and make our dollars for Henderson County go further. We learned from everybody. We've learned from Bill Hubiak about your pothole paver machine that you have, where you fix potholes, your pothole patcher. And because of what Nick saw with Mr. Hubiak, we're purchasing one, and we plan to have it here in the next month or two. So we learn from you all too, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And please keep in close touch with our road department about, the efficacy of your effort on 2084 and how that could relate to other roads. So it sounds interesting and positive. So thank you very much for being here this morning. Okay, next, Tony Riddy, CEO of Kindle. I'd like to call him to the podium. And if you don't mind, Tony, I'll preface this a little bit.
Please.
You remember, for the new magistrates especially, our discussion about new money for economic development from the Tennessee Valley Authority, TVA, last session 2 sessions ago. New legislation was passed that diverted, in lieu of tax money that TVA was paying to the state, back to TVA counties in Kentucky, of which there are, I think, 35 in that
39.
number. And if you had TVA facilities or were served by TVA, you were eligible for this money. And we have some TVA facilities in our county, so we're counted among that number. And the money available this year is approximately $50,000. That was going to go right to our designated economic development agency, and that for us, that's Kindle. And the only caveats were a couple limitations, that the money couldn't be spent on consultants or salaries, and that anytime one of the EDA wanted to spend that money on a certain thing, they would have to come back before fiscal court and just tell us what they wanted to do with it and get our blessing. The money goes directly to the EDA, but they still have to come and get our approval for whatever it is they'd like to do with that money, and that's what Tony is here today. This will be the first time that they're asking for a draw against the $50,000 that TVA's earmarked for them. So with that, I'll turn it over for Tony to explain.
Well, thanks, Judge. That's a great background on this program, and the big caveats with these funded that we get, it cannot be used for salaries or consultants. Now, they do distinguish between a professional service, which is an engineer or architect, those kind of things, versus somebody that just comes in, tells you what would be a good thing to do with that property. So those things are not allowed to be done. So what we've done is carved out, as the judge mentioned, a project that we've been working on for the last 2.5 years is a 425 bypass property. As the property, the Pritchett Farms are 3 or 4 family-owned pieces, but it's the portion where the golf driving range is right on 425, and then the acreage in behind, there's about 400 acres. This acreage is very appealing, not only to us from an economic development standpoint, but also to CSX, because the property is about 400 acres total, of which we do have an option on that property for 5 years. And the CSX spur comes right down through that property, goes to the main line, but also goes on back to the riverport. So now, as we tell everyone that we are able to get you, if you want to bring product in or out on the river, we can get it to this property on the rail. If you want to go back out on rail, you go right to the mainland, and so the main line. And so CSX is very excited about it because there's only about 5 properties of this size with this type of rail access, which they had. CSX has a program called Select Site, and we started onto that program and basically doing all the due diligence. So when a company comes in, we can tell them, yes, we've already done the environmental. Yes, we've already done the geotechnical surveys and all of those things. And what we have in this particular project that's left to be done is there are 2 items. One is that there is a well, an oil well that was not capped back in the day when all the other wells were capped. So that part of the project will be to cap that well. And then also there's some brine tanks that need to be removed from the property. But the major portion of this is the archaeological cultural resources study. We've done the phase 1 portion of it, which is a literature review. They check all of the sources that possibly to find if there were Indian burial grounds or those kinds of things. But then the phase 2 portion of it is where we are today, and we have to wait until we have the land plowed. So once it dries out enough, this spring we'll have the land plowed, and then these archaeologists will come in and walk the property and kick the dirt, so to speak, and dig down where it was plowed to see if there are any arrowheads or old home foundations or things. And this all is because of the state historic preservation, and that's where it is. And it's not that it stops you from doing it. It's just that if there was something there, they want to document it so that when somebody's looking for it, they have the documentation done. So that's what this part will do. The $50,000 will go towards the well capping, which is just under $10,000, and then the cultural resource phase 2 is just under $40,000. So it's right at that $50,000 mark. So we felt this was the perfect place to be able to use those TVA funds, and we can then get this program certified by CSX. And what that means is then CSX will be looking nationally for large rail users that are looking for properties like that, because obviously that's their reason they want to be in the game, is to get people using more rail. So that's what the 425 bypass project, and that's what we're asking for your approval today, so we can send that off on to Department of Local Government.
Tony, have you checked? There's supposed to be a bond to require the plugging of those wells. If not, there are some funds in the state that go back and plug those funds. If we can use those monies rather than this for that particular purpose, I would think that
we've not gotten a response on that yet, but we are still checking towards that for that.
Okay, if you would talk to David Thomason, he's a member, and I think he could help you and put you in place with who you need to talk to in that regard, because you just need to shake the tree, I think, on that one.
And David Thomason is a lawyer at Stoll, Keenan Ogden's office in Evansville.
Yeah.
Okay.
With a lot of knowledge about energy-related issues.
Oil and gas,
yeah, we've been in contact with the well inspector, and he's fully aware of this particular piece of it, but he didn't offer any kind of.
They won't if they can't, because their money is in short supply like everybody
Sure.
else. But,
I will say that one of the advantages of this particular site, it's one of the largest sites in the entire state that is both available and has CSX service. It makes it very attractive to larger companies. It is a definite benefit to have this property available. So doing everything that Kindle can do and the county can do to make it as ready to go as possible is certainly a benefit. And having CSX's help in marketing it is also a benefit. Yeah. So, any other questions? What I'd like to do, in acknowledging what Magistrate McCollum said about other potential sources of help with that, is to go ahead and approve this with the understanding that if you are able to find resources elsewhere, that you use those first. And
we don't have to get our state rep and the state senate and everybody's approval on this.
No, we don't.
Yep.
I make a motion we approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other? We do have to read the resolution though before we do that. So go ahead, Mr. Clerk.
Adoption of a resolution of the Henderson County Fiscal Court authorizing the filing of Regional Development Agency Assistance Program, RDAAP, proposal grant application for up to $50,000 in RDAAP funds with the Department for Local Government, DLG, and authorizing the designated Industrial and Development Authority, KINDLE, to act as the authorized correspondent for this project. Whereas Henderson County desires to promote and carry out economic development efforts on behalf of the residents of Henderson County, and whereas it is recognized that the Regional Development Agency Assistance Program funds available to the county pursuant to KRS Chapter 96 and 2018 Kentucky General Assembly House Bill 200, the budget bill, impose certain obligations and responsibilities upon the county and will require: 1, the designation of an Industrial Development Authority, IDA, established under KRS 154.50-301 to KRS 154.50-346. Number 2, approval of the satisfactory application to be transmitted to DLG for approval. Now therefore be it resolved this 9th day of April 2019 by Henderson County Fiscal Court that an RDAAP project proposal application on behalf of the county for RDAAP monies up to $50,000 for the 425 bypass project shall be submitted to the DLG. The county shall provide such additional information and furnish such documentation as may be required. A designated IDA shall act as the authorized correspondent for this project.
I renew my motion.
We have a motion. Can I get another second? Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any other questions?
Tony, you said something about a 5-year.
Correct. Yeah, and we're in.
How far are we in?
We're just starting into year 3. This will be coming up in April. Will be the renewal, or be the next year of that 5-year option.
Anything else?
Yeah, unfortunately, that railroad track's the one that the CSX goes all the way to Cardin. It runs right there, and there's an underpass under that they gave that away. They offered it to us, and we turned it down.
Okay, all those in favor of accepting the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Tony. Good luck.
Thank you so much.
Keep us appraised of that. Next in your packet is a annual agreement we sign with the Office of Rural and Municipal Aid, wherein we agree to spend the money that they give us in particular ways. And if Mr. Hubiak would come to the mic and make any comments about this. Again, this is an annual renewal of our program agreement with them. And Mr. Gold, if you want to input your thoughts in any way on this. Again, it's an annual agreement we choose, and we do get money from Rural Municipal Aid. We were just approved, by the way, $150,000 for the Cairo Lyles Bridge replacement through discretionary funds through the Rural Municipal Aid Department. Of course, to spend those funds, we have to agree to this agreement. You have to sign off on this agreement. So anything you want to add to that, Bill?
No, it's just our routine deal. This allows us to get our payments from rural and secondary road from the gas tax funding in our 3 payment increments, like we have been doing for over the past 20 years. So it would be my recommendation that we move forward with this agreement.
Said agreement is approved as to form and legality.
And on the last page of this packet is a resolution. Probably need to read, correct, Mr. Bill? Yeah. So if Mr. Clerk would read that resolution, please.
Fiscal Court of Henderson County, resolution adopting and approving the execution of a county road aid co-op program contract between Fiscal Court and the Commonwealth of Kentucky Transportation Cabinet, Department of Rural and Municipal Aid for the fiscal year beginning to July 1st, 2019, as provided in the Kentucky Revised Statutes and accepting all roads and streets referred to in therein as being part of the county road system. Be it resolved by the Fiscal Court that the Fiscal Court does hereby accept all roads and streets referred to in said contract as being part of the county road system, and the Fiscal Court does hereby ratify and adopt all statements, representations, warranties, covenants, and agreements contained in said contract, and does hereby accept said contract, and by such acceptance agrees to all the terms and conditions therein stated. And the county judge executive of the county is hereby authorized and directed to sign said contract as set forth on behalf of the Fiscal Court of Henderson County, and the county clerk of Henderson County is hereby authorized and directed to certify thereto.
And just to reiterate, Mr. Huback, there's nothing in this year's contract that is out of the ordinary or different from any previous years as far as you can recall?
No, sir.
Okay. So I will entertain a motion to enter into this agreement with the Office of Rural and Municipal Aid.
I move we enter in.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you. Mr. Hubeck, you have some surplus property to declare.
Yes, Judge, we would like to put up for sale the van trailer that was utilized by the recycling center. The side had broken out of it, and it's beyond its economic repairable life, and we need to get it disposed of.
Any questions?
Your recommended means of disposal is public auction, is that correct?
That is correct.
Do we have a minimum? I mean, it's got to be worth something than scrap, right?
Yeah, it's just scrap price. I mean, you know, if we got $1,000 for it, it would be more than it's worth. So.
Without any further questions, I'll have the clerk read the resolution.
A resolution declaring certain county property to be surplus and providing for the disposition thereof. Whereas the Henderson County Fiscal Court is, the Henderson Fiscal Court is owner of certain personal property that is no longer of use to the county. Whereas pursuant to KRS 67.0802, the Fiscal Court finds that it is in the best interest of the county to deem the property as surplus and provide the disposition thereof. Whereas the Henderson Fiscal Court wishes to offer the said personal property to be sold at public auction in accordance with the law at the discretion of the Henderson County Judge Executive. Now therefore be it resolved by the Fiscal Court, County of Henderson, Kentucky, as follows. Pursuant to KRS 67.0802, the following personal property is hereby declared to be a surplus. 2002 35-foot Great Dane trailer, VIN number 1GRAA70272B075402. It shall be sold at a duly advertised public auction pursuant to all applicable laws at such time and place and in such a manner as shall be arranged by the County Judge Executive. The County Judge Executive or his designee is hereby authorized to make said arrangements.
Any other questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. And now we're on, Mr. Hubeck could come back to the podium. We're on to our second reading of the adjustment of the speed limit on Ohio Drive. And before we have second reading, anybody wants to make a comment? Any questions about this? Anybody out in the audience, any comments or questions? Thank you, Bill. We will begin second reading.
Judge, this ordinance was read in full at the prior meeting, so I believe that a reading of the summary only would suffice.
Excellent. Mr. Clerk.
Ordinance amending number 230-15 of the Henderson County Code of Ordinances and establishing a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit on the entire length of CR 1365, also known as Ohio Drive, lying outside the city limits of Henderson County, Kentucky.
So
Outside the
moved.
city limits of Henderson, Kentucky.
Yes.
Yeah. We have a motion from Magistrate McCollum,
Second.
second from Magistrate Putman. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next, we're going to have a bid opening on the voting systems requested by County Clerk Renisa Abner, and we have a single bid. Am I correct?
These are all the copies for you all.
Okay.
Thank you, Vanessa.
You want to read the bid?
Yes, it is $464,894 for all of the machines, and that includes a 10% discount for countywide purchase, saving us $51,266. We purchase it countywide.
And that is a total of 51 machines, is that correct?
Yes.
Any questions about this bid?
That total, let me just add, that total includes 5 spares. If for some reason one fell off the back of the truck in moving, we have different circumstances where, something may happen. We may need an extra one, so that includes 5 spares. So we feel very safe with that number.
It's my intent, if we approve this bid, is to have further conversations with HARP about a way we could go about doing this in this calendar year, but perhaps not entirely in this fiscal year. And I think they'd be open to that, if I'm not mistaken. We have had discussions about this, and the advantage to buying these as closely in one calendar year as possible, not to space this out too long because of the training involved and the worry about some of the machines being obsolete by the time we get to the end of a long-term purchasing period. So,
and obtaining results is also another key component. When you have one standardized set of machines to get results on election night, it's very advantageous to have the same type of machine.
So, Judge, it's our intention to do the $233,000 this fiscal year.
I think we need to talk about it.
Okay. Right.
I think in accepting this bid, we are merely saying that we like HARP's pricing, and then we're willing to negotiate. And then we have to come back and decide how we're going to complete this transaction. So it's not a commitment at this point yet to buy it. It's an acceptance of this bid. And I'll be reporting back to the fiscal court. Maybe Renice and I can work with the HARP representative to see what the possibilities are, and then bring a report back to fiscal court as we get into the end of this fiscal year and as we budget for next. Does that make sense?
It does, but I'd like to make a suggestion, I guess. I'd like our IT person to look at the printer and the tabulation computer. I don't know what the Veriti Touch Writer Bundle is, but there's a couple of things here that I think we might be able to buy ourselves. I know printers. I mean, I can, depending on what you need for the dot matrix or laser or whatever it is. I mean, we might be able to buy one cheaper than that, or we may even have one that could be used for that.
Mind if I address?
Please.
And state your name for the record, please.
Everybody sees that. It's an Oki data printer.
Right.
But it has special firmware that's loaded on that printer. That's not an off-the-shelf printer.
I understand, but could we not get the firmware too?
No.
So that
it's proprietary to Harding Civic, the manufacturer of the voting equipment.
What about the computer?
Same thing. Proprietary software loaded on that computer.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was worth a try.
This is Ross Robertson with HARP Enterprises.
And Ross, just to clarify, we appreciate you bidding on this. I know you have a good relationship with our county clerk. We are voting today just to accept the bid or approve the bid, and then we'll be talking about payment options if we decide to move forward. Acceptable?
Very, very acceptable.
So again, we'll be working together both the rest of this fiscal year and in planning for next to figure out the best way to tackle this. And so does anybody have any questions about that? And I also reaffirm that we need to replace our voting machines. They are at the end of their workable life. So
I just had 9 batteries that we had to replace, so that's going to be about $400. That was last week while I was on vacation. They came in, so it's a constant upkeep. So.
And am I right in assuming that parts of those are not always easy to find?
Correct.
Because of the nature, their age.
That's right.
Right. Okay. So we have a motion or to accept this bid.
What's the life expectancy of the new machines?
The expectancy is anywhere from 12 to 16 years on the new equipment. That's pretty standard on digital equipment anymore.
And the bid includes some sort of warranty?
Yes, there's a 1-year warranty on all equipment.
Okay.
And it starts at the acceptance of taking the equipment.
Right. Okay. And clerk is maybe recommending that at this point, instead of having a full-out vote, maybe we take it under a recommendation. We talk about it some more. We can either have a vote at the very next meeting, or if anybody pleases, we can go ahead and accept the bid now. I don't know that there's going to be a whole lot of new information, and we don't have a second bid. So
I move to accept the bid, but with us looking at payment options.
Yes.
Yes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other questions? I appreciate Renisa going through this process and Harp for making the bid. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Kurt, for helping me as well.
Thank you.
Mr. Gold, your report.
Judge, I've got several checks today. And they're all for jail fees collected. We had an issue with the bank that had us a little bit behind on that, on not getting a statement. So we got that together and got with the jail staff and are catching up with them. The checks are $720.62, $832.94, $337.50, $426.33, and $905.25, bringing that total to $3,222.84, and the fiscal year total to date turned over to the county $116,995.04. And that's not all jail fees. That was the total for all of our payments to the county.
Right.
I'd like to thank you. That's some of the hardest money you can collect, and I would make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of accepting the report from County Attorney Steve Gold signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And call up Treasurer Brenda Ryder with claims and fund transfers.
I have one claim from the jail fund to U.S. Bank in the amount of $3,463.29. This is for miscellaneous credit card charges, which are quite a long list, but the largest couple is $1,623.82 for fuel for transports, $811.85 from the motor vehicles line. This is for a system diagnostics tool, and $495.81 from the equipment repairs line, which was an exhaust for a boiler.
And these are all within the line items budget?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Move to pay the claims.
Second.
Motion and a second to pay the claims. Any other questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it? No transfers? Okay. At this time, if anybody in the audience would like to come and speak for the good of the county, please come to the podium. Mr. Hubiak.
Yes, sir, Judge. I've been in communication with Sheriff Brady at the Sheriff's Department, and I am formally requesting the transfer of a few items from the Sheriff's Department to the County Road Department / Park Department. They have a welding trailer that they have decided that they do not need any longer. We could utilize this at the road department. The only welder that we have that is not in the shop is the one that's mounted on our service truck, and if we have the service truck and we get a call out on something, we have to disengage what we're doing and move on, get the service truck back to the mechanic and stuff like that when we're working on stuff at either the fairgrounds or the parks. So this would be something that we could utilize and give us something that's mobile to have it at our discretion where we need it. The second item is an air compressor that they have no longer need for, and we could utilize this also to be able to run air tools and things of this nature when we're putting things together and that. And the third item is a Craftsman toolbox with a drawer underneath it and on rollers, and we can also utilize that item. I have the full descriptions here with the serial numbers and that. I'd like to present it to fiscal court, and I'd like to thank Sheriff Brady for it.
Thank you, Sheriff. Any other thing you'd like to add to that? Right.
Make a motion to transfer it?
I don't know that we actually need a motion, but
Okay.
To do this. But I would advise to make sure that the capital assets record of the road department reflects this change, and also for the sheriff's department that reflects this change, so we can keep track of where those are. Any other questions about that? I think thanks for the cooperation, Sheriff, and I hope you can utilize those items however you need them. And any other comments? Anybody else would like to speak for good of the county in our audience today? All right. Master Southard, anything you'd like to say?
All's good, sir.
Master Moran.
All's good in the second, too.
Man, you all are a lot less talkative than on good of the county than your predecessors. But Master Putman?
All good in the fourth, Judge. Thank you.
Where do I think that Magistrate McCullum will not be so concise? I'm sorry. I don't.
It's okay. That's okay. I think we need to keep Mark Lynn and Bert Lynn in our prayers and thoughts. I just I didn't realize that's whose son it was until this morning, and then Bert worked at the sheriff's office, and I just can't imagine losing a child. So anyway, thank you.
Glad you mentioned that, and we've sent our condolences to that family, but Bert was a valued employee here, and it's truly a tragedy.
Visitation, I think, started at 11, and their funeral's today.
Okay. Mr. Gold?
All is good in the county attorney's office, Judge.
Thank you. I just have one point of notice that April 15th, next Monday, tax day, ironically, we're going to have our initial budget workshop for 2019-20. It'll be at 3 o'clock right here in the fiscal courtroom. Please make a note of that, 3 o'clock on Monday. We ask all department heads and elected officials who will have input into the budget to please attend. Hopefully we can keep that as brief as possible, but it usually takes a couple hours at least to make a first run through and come to an agreement. So next Monday at 3 right here. If we need further time, we'll schedule a workshop for later that week. I think Thursday that week might be a good time for a follow-up meeting, but hopefully we won't need it. Unless there is anything else, and obviously acknowledging our sorrow over the Lynn family, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor can leave.